Hello guys, you're welcome back once again to this section. So in today's video you are going to look at applications of differentiation. So if you are new on this channel, hey, what are you waiting for? Go ahead to smash the like button of the video, subscribe to this channel and share with your friends. So in today's video you are going to look at these various subtopics: cost, revenue and profit, margin analysis, and the maxima and minima concepts under the applications of differentiation. Alright, so please make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and then stay connected with us. So once we upload a new video, we go live, you will be the first person to get it right away. So without wasting my time, let's get started. So now when it comes to business, okay, especially let's say you're a production manager of a particular business. Here the idea is that, let's say if you manage an inventory or product or finished product you sell to your customers, you have certain levels of output that you produce on regular basis, but at times, okay, it may be due to, let's say, changes in what the economic environment, or due to the demands level. In terms of the changes in demands level, it may at times, as a production manager, alters the number of output or product you want to produce at the end of the day. Alright, so at the end of the day, when you are producing, we expect that you also take into account the cost you're gonna incur in the production process. I hope that is clear. So at times we are saying that these business people or these production managers or these managers within a particular company are not just interested in the output they are willing to produce to their customers, neither also not also in the cost associated with these outputs, but also they are interested with what will be the rate of change that will come as a result of what changing, let's say, the demands of what that product, or changes in economic what environment. Okay, so most of the time business people are not just interested in the cost and the output of product you're going to produce, but they're also interested in the change, the rate of change at which, if there is a changes in our economy or economic system, or changes in the demand level within in which that product is being sold out to the market, how it's going to affect their normal operations within the business. That is one thing differentiation as a mathematics model comes in to help business people to make decisions that will help to smooth these changes that may come as a result of what these economic or changing in the economic what environment. I hope that. So when it comes to differentiation, actually it helps business people to deal with what, as a mathematics model that helps business people or production managers or management to deal with what situation that arise as a result of changes in the production levels or changes in the economic environment, whose effect gonna have on the production level and the cost that they incur for a particular period of time. So these are the things that we need to understand. So when it comes to the application, okay, we have changes that can occur with respect to cost and output with respect to the revenue you can derive from the sales and the profit in that light. I hope that is clear. So at this point, somebody may ask, what is a cost? Cost, in simple terms, you are talking about the price that you pay in order to get something. So let's say you go to market and then you buy a particular what product, and then you come back and somebody asks you, what was the cost of this product? You say, okay, I paid for this. Then that becomes the cost of that product. Revenue, you're talking about the sales you earned from what, the sales you earned from engaging with what, a product with customers. When you sell products with customers, the sales you earn also called a revenue. And profit, you're talking about the difference between cost and what, revenue. I hope that's clear. So that's I've already introduced as a background drop of knowledge that you need to understand. When it comes to these factors, management are not just interested in the cost and the output that they produce on a regular basis, but they're also interested in the rate of change that will come as a result of changes in economic environment, or changes in demands level, or changes in what the resource that they use in the production of what the goods or the service. If there is a changes in this, what is the effect on the output and the cost that the business, and actually the revenue and the profit in that light. So these are the things that we look at. So when there is any changes that comes as a result of these changes in economic environment, demand in sales and other factors, then we come to, or we introduce the concept of what, marginal analysis. So marginal analysis is a concept that help business people to understand the rate of change at which the output of a particular product and the cost or revenue or the profit also changes. So margin, once you hear of marginal, we are talking about a changes or the rate of change with what that particular item, whether it's a cost, revenue, or profit, or a rate of change with respect to any other item. So in relation to what we are discussing, it's going to the rate of change in cost, rate of change in revenue, and rate of change in profit when there is a changes in the market environment, and so far as production and cost within those areas are concerned. I believe that is clear. So now let's put them into real practical so you get to understand what I'm saying better. When it comes to cost, most of the time once an activity is done, a business process is undertaken in terms of, let's say, production of good, right? At the end of the day, you're going to incur a cost because you can't produce any product without incurring a cost. That is not possible. Even the cost you pay for the labor that you're going to hire, the cost of the raw material you're going to use to manufacture, and even other expenses you're going to incur, all of them put together becomes what the cost of what the product that you want to manufacture or bring it out, or the finished output. I believe that is clear. So at this point, once you get to know our cost, we can say that our cost for the business be represented as, let's say, cost of what. So let's say the cost of the product should be represented as, let's say, X. So I can have what a cost function for my products that I actually produce and then sell it out to what customers. Okay, so when I incur a cost to come out with a product, I'm going to have what my cost function. So this is my cost function. Likewise, at the end of the day, when I sell the product to customers, I'm going to obtain revenue. So when I obtain revenue, I can also have what we call my revenue or function as in this form, as you can see here. Then also I can also have what my profit or function. So cost function actually is a function that actually help us know the total cost that you incur in the production of a particular good or a service. Revenue function will also help us to know the total revenue that will derive from the sale of that product or service. And the profit function is actually the difference between the cost and then revenue. So at this point, if you are having a profit function, then it means that your revenue function or revenue is more than your cost. So profit means your revenue is more than your cost. That's why we get what profit. So profit actually in terms of their function is going to be what a revenue function compared with what cost function. I believe that is clear. So now once you're able to have the idea about cost, revenue, and profit, let's link up to the marginal analysis. So here we are not just interested in the cost, revenue, and profit within the normal production level of the business, okay, but then we are also interested in at what rate of change will it result when there is a changes in, let's say, the demand of that product, when there is a changes in, let's say, the market, when there is changes in, let's say, the economic environment that we are operating. What effect is going to have on our normal production level? That's why we come in to introduce what we call a marginal analysis or a marginal concept, which says that it is a rate of change in something. And this something we're talking about here in relation to what we are discussing is the rate of change with respect to our cost, with respect to our revenue, with respect to our profit, and with respect to what our output that we produce for the day. So we are not just interested in what just the normal production and then the cost that we're going to incur, but we're also interested in if there is any changes in factor that can affect our production levels or cost, what is going to be that rate of change. That's what we are also interested, or that is also what management or production people are also interested in that. So let's take note. So when it comes to the margin, we're talking about the rate of change. So now let's bring the discussion down here. So let's say I have my cost function here. So when there is a change in cost function in math mode, they represent it as what? Cost with a prime of what? X. So meaning that cost has changed. Okay. So when there is a change in cost, you represent C prime of what? That quantity that we have represented. And how do you get the change? The change comes as a result of what? The first derivative of the cost function. So when you differentiate the cost function for the first time, you're gonna get what? A marginal cost. You're gonna get a marginal cost. So if you don't see cost prime, you're gonna see what? This marginal cost. In some textbooks or the material that you'll be using, you're gonna see either a cost prime or a marginal cost, as I've already indicated here. Is that okay? So then also when there is also a change in your revenue, When there is also a change in your revenue, right, also going to be R prime of X or marginal revenue, so MR as what your marginal what revenue. You can use this symbol to represent a change, whether you use R prime of X or MR with your bar on top of it. And then as when there's also a change in your profit, it's gonna be something like this. So a change in your profit is going to be a change in your revenue, all right, compared with a change with your cost. So when there is a change, this is how it also what actually happens. So you compare the change in your revenue as against the change in your cost, and you're gonna get a change in your profit. So let me have it here. So the same thing that we are discussing. So remember, these are the changes that we are trying to talk about. So let's take note. So all these things come as a result of the first differential of this function that we want to understand. I believe that is clear. Now let's get on to more detail about this marginal analysis we want to talk about. Now we are saying that with a marginal analysis, let's get proper definition for it. We are saying when it comes to production setting and when it comes to cost function, in terms of the cost you're going to incur for the product, we are saying that marginal cost, in simple terms, marginal cost is the additional cost incurred in producing what one item. A unit cost incurred in producing what one item, right? Marginal cost is a unit cost incurred in producing one item, or a single cost incurred in producing what one item together with the normal production activities of the business. So for you to determine a marginal cost, we are saying that is first of all differentiate your cost function, right? Once you differentiate your cost function based on the unit of output you want to find, in a question you'll be given that level or that unit of what output, then you just substitute to the change in your cost function and you get what your marginal cost. I believe that is clear. So this is what I'm talking about, marginal cost. And when it comes to marginal revenue, it's the same thing. We are talking about an additional revenue that you earn when you sell one item, or when you sell what one product. An additional revenue that you earn when you sell what one item. That's what becomes your marginal revenue. And when it comes to your marginal profit too, we are talking about a profit that you earned, right, when you compare your marginal revenue as against your marginal cost. That's what we call a marginal profit. I believe that is clear. So now, having said that, that is for the marginal part. But then at times too, you may also be asked to find out what is the exact cost of producing, let's say, one item. How do you determine the exact cost of producing, let's say, one item? Let's say within our production sector, we produce, let's say, our total product that we produce is using at what X, and the cost that we incur is what cost of what that product, which we are represented as what as X. Let's say in our production setting we incur the total cost in producing X item. This is the cost function that represents for it. I've indicated here. Is that okay? Now you are asked to, let's say, determine the exact cost of producing just one item. Remember, there is a difference between exact cost of producing one item and the marginal cost. Marginal cost, we are talking about a change in the cost function which comes as a result of the first differential. But when it comes to exact cost, we are talking about the cost of just producing what one item is different from what marginal cost. So marginal cost will come as a change. So we have discussed the marginal aspect. So when it comes to exact cost of producing one item, we are interested in the cost of producing just what that single what item or that product. I believe that is clear. So most of the times these things comes in, and as a manager you need to understand which model can help you to give an idea or information about these or changes, and which mathematical model can help you to make decisions based on these situations that you encounter or you'll be encountering in future. I believe that is clear. So let's say you are asked to find what exact cost of producing one item. So in doing that, we are saying that to put exact cost of producing one item is always going to be your normal cost, your normal output, plus 1, right? Your normal output that you have been as what as 1. That's the total output that you produce for a particular period, and we want to determine exact cost of 1. exact cost of 1. So you're gonna add the 1 plus the normal output that we produce for a particular period, which we have presented as what, x. So for you to determine that, it's going to be the normal output plus 1, and then compare with what, your normal cost of producing what, one item. And this is what we call exact cost of what, exact cost of producing what, one item. This is what we call the exact cost of producing one item. When it comes to the marginal cost, all that you need to know here is that when you ask to find the marginal cost of what, a product, all that you need to know is to first differentiate what the cost function in a quotient, and then substitute whatever level of output they want you to find the additional cost as a marginal cost to the overall what, output that we produce. But when we are asked to find the exact cost of producing what, one item, it is the total output that you produce for a particular period plus 1, okay, in terms of the cost, and then subtract the cost of what, your normal what, production. Is that okay? So always, this is what we wanted to find. So most of the times you're talking about what, a change in cost. So I can use this to represent a change in cost at the same time as the exact cost here. So we're going to what, your C plus your C into bracket S plus 1 minus, that's your cost of what, your output. So your cost of what, normal output plus 1, that is, we want to find what, exact cost of 1 minus the cost of what, your normal output. So that's what we call a change in what, cost. And this cost, change in cost, is actually a single cost of producing what, one item. That's a single cost of what, one item. A single cost of what, one item. So you see that's what, change in cost. So when there's a change in cost, then if depends on the item we want to produce, and irrespective of the cost you want to find, is go, the question actually made it clear to you. So if you want to find the exact cost of one product, fine, that is how you're gonna go, then you are good to go. But if let's say you want to find the exact cost of what, 2 products or 2 items, then in that regard you're going to be C into bracket X plus what, 2, and you subtract what, your normal cost of production, and then you are good to go. So it depends on, but most of the times business people are interested in finding exact cost of producing one. What is the effect on producing one cost of one item as part of the total output that we produce, and what changes would that make with respect to our normal output or production, and with respect to its cost as against our revenue and profit in that light. So these are the things that we need to be familiar and understand, so that in any situation you'll be able to what, understand it and then deal with it in that case. So differentiation as a tool that we are talking about, how business people to make decisions about changes in cost, revenue, and then output, and even profit for a particular period of time. So marginal analysis, our marginal concept, as we said, marginal cost, we are talking about the additional cost of producing what, one item. We are talking about the rate of change of producing what, one item in terms of what, cost and then the output. If it is revenue, we are talking about what, the additional revenue, additional sales you earn for selling one item. And profit, you're talking about what, the marginal revenue and then the marginal cost when you compare the two. And we have already said that marginal cost is not the same thing as exact cost. Marginal cost is not the same thing as exact cost. When you are talking about exact cost, you are talking about finding the true cost of what, the item you want to produce. If let's say you are producing just one item, then it is going to be the cost of the normal output that we put, let's say X plus 1, and then compare with what, the total exact cost of producing your normal output. I believe that is clear. So this is what I mean by the exact cost of producing what, one item. The exact cost of producing what, one item. So when it comes to, so in summary, let me clarify something so that you get to understand the whole issue you are discussing. So in summary, when you are asked to find the marginal cost, whether marginal cost or marginal revenue or marginal profit, slash, when you are also asked to find what, the exact cost, so exact cost, so let's say exact cost or revenue or profit, is actually so simple that you can go in summary. So this is what we are saying, that if it's a marginal cost, let's say within our production setting, our normal output that we produce for a particular period is always on a level of, let's say 20. Okay, let's use for purpose of explanations again in simple terms. Let's say we produce, our outputs are always produce what 10 watt product or 10 watt output of what product. So let's say we produce what could be toffee in circles. So let's say I have one could be toffee here, 2 here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let me assign numbers to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, this is what we are saying, that these are normal production output that we produce for a particular period of time, and we have assigned what numbers to it to do that. In all, we produce what 10 what could be toffee. Is that okay? Now, here you can be asked to find what, let's say, the marginal cost of producing what the fifth what item or the fifth product. How are you going to find the marginal cost? So when you're asked, we say that marginal cost, or so you have already indicated that whether it's a cost, revenue, output, revenue or profit, in terms of marginal, we are talking about just an additional what, and a rate of change of producing what a single what item. The rate of change of producing a single item, that's marginal. If it is cost, we are talking about an additional cost we incurred in producing a single item. If it is revenue, we are talking about additional sales we incurred in selling one product, and then the profits, you're talking about the difference between the two. So in this case, let's say if you are asked to find what, you're asked to find the marginal cost of producing what, let's say, remember these are in position, so this first, second, third, and it goes on and on in that case, as I'm trying to indicate it. So here is first, second, here is third, here is fourth, here is fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, and here is what, 10th. Alright, so let's say we are asked to find the marginal cost of producing what, the fourth item. So it's going to be this, right? You know, marginal cost is just an additional cost, right? So in that case, all that you need to do is to differentiate your cost function, okay? Differentiate the cost function and substitute the fourth position that you see here, which is just the 4 here, into the change or the first derivative of the cost function. Whatever you're going to get becomes what, your marginal cost. Whatever you're going to get becomes your marginal cost. That's what we mean by what, a marginal cost. If it is revenue to the same thing, you just differentiate your revenue function and substitute what, that fourth position in that. I believe somebody is getting values out of what I'm saying. So if you are getting value, if you are getting it, comment in the comment section. Put your comment in the comment section so that I will be able to understand that you are getting value out of this, so that I will be able to move on in that case. I hope that is clear. So when you ask to find the marginal cost or the marginal cost that we are talking about, it is based on the position that you want to, the cost you want to find for that item. Because we are talking about marginal, you're talking about a single item in terms of production, cost, revenue, or profit. Single. You are talking about rate of change in something. I hope that is clear. And now making an indication that if it's a cost that you want to find, then most of the time it's going to be given in levels of production, right? And these are the levels. You have the first, second, third, and fourth in that light. So we are saying that if you are asked to find the marginal cost of the fourth level of production, then all that you need to do is to differentiate the cost function and then substitute whatever level they're going to give you in the question. In this case, let's say we are told to find the marginal cost of the fourth toffee here, which is the fourth. So just substitute the fourth in this case, and then the cost is going to incur. The answer you're going to derive, is going to be the marginal cost of fourth item that you want to produce. So this kind of cost, whether it's a revenue or a profit. So if it's a revenue, you differentiate your revenue function and substitute the level of output that the question may give to you, and you get your whether marginal cost or marginal revenue. So that is what we mean by marginal. But when it comes to exact cost, we are using the same example here. When it comes to the exact cost, let's say you'll be asked to find exact cost of, let's say, producing, let's say, the 6 item, the 6 could be toffee here. That's the item, the 6 could be toffee here. in this red form, this one. Okay, that's the 6 word. How do you engage in this word? How do you find or calculate the 6th item? This is where we bring in the change in cost. We are saying that at this point, the change in cost you want to find here is what? The 6th word item. So the 6th item in terms of change in cost is going to be your normal output you produce, which is going to be what? X plus what? 1. Because we are just want to find what? The exact cost, just one cost. The cost you're gonna incur for producing additional what? Product. So it's going to be the cost of X plus 1 compare with the overall cost of your output that you produce for a particular day. So you realize that here our normal product that we produce, our normal output that we produce for a particular period is what? So in this case, this is how it's going to be. In this case, this is how it's going to be. If I'm asked to calculate the exact cost of producing the 6th item, the idea is going to be that we produce what? We produce up to 5th what? Item, or the 5th product you can see here. So always the item you're going to be asked to what? Actually find in terms of the cost of 1 will come into play where you be told, or you need to be aware that if, let's say, I'm asked to find the exact cost of producing the 6th item here, the idea is going to be that we in our normal production we produce just what? 5 what? Output, which is what? The 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, and then the 5th. So in that case, it's going to be the cost of what? The 5th, right? Plus what? 1, and then compare with the cost of what? So how many you produce before the 6th, which is what? 5. You can see here. Please, I hope somebody is getting value out of this. I hope you are getting understand I'm trying to put across here. Let me add another example. Let's say I'm asked to find the cost of what? Producing what? The 11th what? Item. The 11th item. What is going to be the exact cost of producing the 11th item? So it's going to be, so the 11th item is going to be, in terms of changing cost, is going to be, so meaning that at this point, the idea is that we produce, or our normal production is what? We produce 10 outputs. We produce 10 outputs, or we manufacture 10 outputs of products. Is that okay? And I'm asked to find the cost of what? An additional cost of 1 that will be added to the total output that we produce. So in this case, it's going to be the cost, which is what? It's going to be 10 plus 1, isn't it? That's 11 that you can see here. And then compare with what? The cost of what? The 10 output that we produce, you know, on a normal basis. And that's going to fetch you the cost of what? The 11th what? Item. So please take note. And let's say I'm told to find what? The exact cost of producing what? The 7th item. Meaning that the idea here is that if I'm asked to find the exact cost of producing the 7th item, meaning that on our normal base of production we produce what? Just what? 6 what? Items, which is what? Up to the 6th what? Item. So in that case, for me to find the exact cost of producing the 7th item is going to be what? The 6 plus what? 1, right? And then compare with what? The cost of what? The 6th item we produce on a regular basis. So always, whatever you be asked to find the exact cost, always please make sure that if you are asked to, whatever position you will be asked to find the exact cost, always make sure that you find the total cost of that position, okay? Or always going to be the quantity that you produce for that item. So in this case, let me clarify something so that you don't get confused here. Let's say, let me use the same 7. So I'm asked to produce what? I'm asked to find the exact cost of what? Producing the 7th what? Item in this case. So the idea is that if I have to produce what? The 7th item, meaning that for us to produce the 7th item, we need to produce what? The first what? 6 items. The first 6 items before we can produce what? The 7th what? Item. So in this case, all that you need to do is just to substitute the cost of producing what? Your normal output, which is what? 6, plus additional what? Output, which is what? The 1. So as you can see, a 6 plus 1. Is that okay? And then compare with what? The normal output you produce for a particular day, which is what? 6. So in terms of their cost, going to fetch you what? Exact cost of producing what? The 7th item. I believe that is clear. And then when it comes, let's say you're asked to find the exact cost of producing what? The 8th item, exact cost. So in that regard to, you find the cost of producing what? Because for you to produce the 8th item, you should have produced what, the seventh item that you can see here. That will come before you produce the eighth item. So meaning that the business produced what, seven what items before it then decides to produce what, an additional cost of, which is going to be the eighth item. So it's going to be the cost of seven product compared with the cost of what, sorry, we were talking about 8, so it's going to be 8 here, sorry. So we're talking about 8, so it's going to be 8, so that's more like 7 plus what, additional product, and then compare with the cost of what, the normal output, which is what, 7. So when you find the difference between the two in terms of the cost function, that's where you get your exact cost of producing what, that particular item. Is that okay? So there's difference between the exact cost. So in simple and in summary, when you have to find the exact cost, always look at the position you'll be asked to find the exact cost, and then put that, substitute that what position or that quantity in the cost function. So in that regard, you're going to add +1 to it, and then compare with what, your normal cost of producing a particular product, and then you are good to what, go. So as always being defined, it is your cost, your normal cost you produce plus what, one quantity compare with your exact cost. So please, let's take note of that. It's very, very important you understand this. And when it comes to marginal cost, we are saying that for you to determine marginal cost, just differentiate your cost function and substitute the production level they are asking you to find the marginal cost, and that is all, right? But when it comes to exact cost, you just substitute the output, right, into the original cost function, and then compare with what, your normal output you produce. That is also the cost function in that case when you substitute that quantity. So let me clarify something here once and for all, that if you are asked to, as usual, we are producing what, 10 items. Now I'm asked to find the 11th what, exact cost of producing the 11th what item, which is what, the red what, the red item here. So it follows the same suit. All that you need to do is to what, find the overall cost. So at first what we produced was what, s plus 1, okay, and then you want to find the exact cost of just the one here. So you compare with what, the normal production output. I believe that is clear. So in this case, we are asked to find the exact cost of producing what, the 11th item. So in that case, it's going to be our normal that we produce is what, 10 plus what, 1, and when you add 10 plus, it's going to be 11, right? And then compare with the cost of what, the 10 that we produce on regular basis. So when you substitute this into the cost function, and you also substitute 10 into the cost function, whatever you see, whatever variable the question going to give you, let's say we have cost function of x to be, let's say 3x squared plus, let's say 6. All that you need to do is just what, substitute what, so here going to be 11, right, and then compare it to what, cost of 10. So it's going to be just whatever you see, just substitute 11 there. So it's going to be what, 3 to bracket 11 squared plus 6, right, and then compare with what, 3 into bracket 10 squared plus what, 6, and then you get your exact cost of what, producing what, just one item, because 11 minus 10 is what, 1, isn't it? And then you are good to go. So here's what we mean by what, the exact cost. But if we're to be marginal, all that you need to do is to differentiate what, the cost function. So in this case, marginal cost is going to be, when I differentiate 3x, so it's going to be 6x, right? When you differentiate 6, it's constant, going to result to 0, so you don't write. So we can say that our marginal cost function is going to what, 6x, and based on the level of output or production, you'll be asked to what, find the marginal cost. Just substitute into it, substitute into this marginal cost function, and then you are good to go. So that's what we mean by the marginal cost and exact cost of producing what, a particular item. And these things help business people to make better decisions when the need arise, right? And using these models or differentiation as a mathematics model help business people to make these decisions and know the effect associated with it. Is that okay? And that will help them to make or report to management about what happens because of changes in the economy, because of changes in demand and other stuff that affected their output at the end of a particular day. So I believe that is clear. So these are the things that we need to understand when it comes to cost, revenue, profit, and marginal analysis. So when it comes to the maxima and the minima concept, actually it is actually the concept that we learned on how to find the nature of what curves is the same concept that we are going to use to apply in dealing with what a problem that a business might face. So the same what idea that you're going to what use to solve what a business or situation problems. I believe that is clear. So when you are given, let's say you might be given a scenario, and then they will ask you what's going to be the maximum what revenue, what's going to be the maximum profit, what's going to be the minimum revenue, what's going to be the minimum profit or cost. So if you are asked to find, let's say, a maximum profit, all that you need to do is that profit is what revenue compared with cost, right? So you compare revenue as against your profit as against all your costs, and then go through the process of what determining what the maximum point of what a particular what function. Is that okay? So you use the same principle we learned in conditions for stationary points and those types. You're going to use the same principle and apply it here. If you're asked to, let's say, find the minimum what minimum cost, all that you need to do is, let's say, you come out with what, let's say, your cost function. Let's use what we have produced here, which was 3x squared plus what, let's 6. So this is your minimum what, this is a cost function, but it's a minimum what function. Is that okay? Minimum cost function. So if you ask to find the minimum cost function, all that you need to do is to tell us that here you first of all find the first derivative, which is going to be what 6x, right? And then you test for it. So since then you test for yes. So once you test for it, and then so let's see. So let's take the second derivative. So once you take the first derivative, the idea is that at the first derivative, that function is no longer moving, it's at rest. Is that okay? So in this case, we can say that 6s is going to be equal to what 0. So you divide both side by divide both side, therefore you can say s is equal to what 0. Is that okay? So for you to know that this is a minimum function or a minimum cost function, you first of all you continue to find the second derivative. So the second derivative is going to be what double prime is going to be what, so when you differentiate 6, it's going to get what 6. Remember 6 is greater than 0, right? So at this point we can say that this is what a minimum what cost function. So if that is true, then the question is asking you to find minimum cost. So all that you need to do is just to substitute what the x value derived here from the first what differential to this original cost function. Whatever you're going to get becomes what your minimum cost. So these are the things you're going to gonna apply our maximum and minimum concept that we learned on condition for determine the nature of a particular function and those kind of. So it's actually not a new concept, something we have learned already. So if you missed that video, in the description section of this video I've provided a link there, kindly check and then go through in that case. So these are the basic idea you need to get when it comes to the applications of what differentiation in relation to business sense, cost, revenue, profit, margin analysis, maxima and the minima. So that is that. So let's take an example to clarify this whole issue that we want to we have learned so far. So let's take an example so that we get to understand far more better what we are talking about. Let's take an example. So let's take the first one. So this is our first example. The total cost per day, right, in hundreds of dollars for manufacturing X tons of steel is given by, so you are given the cost function. That's the total. So that's the cost function, which is what 3 plus 10x minus s squared. And these are production level. We can produce at this range 0 to what 5. Is that okay? Now they are asked to find I, the marginal cost at x, and then II, the marginal cost at x, which is equal to 1, 3, 4 unit levels of production. So as I was saying, you're going to be given the levels of production and then you work with that. I believe that is clear. So at this pace, let's get something here. At this pace, all that you need to do is to define your cost function here. So I have my solution down here. So my cost function was given as what? So let's see, 3 plus 10x minus x squared. So 3 plus 10x minus what? X squared. So now I'm told to find what the marginal cost at x. So simple, we are asked to find the marginal cost at x. So to find your marginal cost, we said to find your marginal cost is the first differential of what the cost function. We said is the first differential of what the cost function. So all that you need to do is to differentiate the cost function 1, that is, you find the first derivative of the cost function. Is that okay? So I can say that my marginal cost, or my cost prime of x, is going to be, so when you differentiate 3, you know 3 is a constant, going to just 0, so you don't write it. When you differentiate 10, you're going to get what? 10x, you're going to get 10. Is that okay? And when you differentiate x squared, you're going to get what? 2x. So this becomes my marginal or cost function at what? X. My marginal cost function at what? X. So that is when you are done. It's very simple. Is that okay? So always when you have to find the marginal cost, just differentiate or find the first derivative of the cost function. That is all. And then it goes on to tell us that we are asked to find the marginal cost at these levels 1, 3, 4 units at the levels of production. So all that you need to do is that once you know your marginal cost function, just substitute 1, 3, 4 into that function. You get to know of what the cost in terms of marginal. Is that okay? So that is I. So so at the production level at x is equal to what? 1, what is going to be my marginal cost? My marginal cost is going to be, so my marginal is going to be 10 minus, wherever you see x, substitute what? 1 there. So my marginal cost is going to be, so here 10, 1, 2 multiply 1 is going to fetch you what? 2. So 10 minus is going to give me what? 8. So here we're told that it's in dollars, right? And it's in hundreds of dollars. So we can say that here you multiply by what? 100. And I know that they're going to get what? $800. I hope that is clear. So at x is equal to 3, at x is equal to 3, what is going to be my marginal cost? So my marginal cost is going to be, I'll just substitute 3 into my marginal cost function. That is all. So it's going to be 10 minus 2 into bracket 3. And the day I'll be arriving at what? $4, and you multiply by 100 because we're told that we operate in hundreds of what? Dollars. We operate in hundreds of dollars. So let's take note of that. So at the end of the day, I'm going to have my marginal cost at production level of 3 to what? $400. I hope that is clear. And then at x is equal to, is it 4? Yep. So it follows the same thing. Just such your marginal cost is going to be 10, 2 into bracket 4, and then we're going to have what? Here to be 10 minus what? 8, right? The same thing as what? 2. So $2 multiplying 100, and gonna arrive at what? $200. So that's what we mean by what? The marginal cost and at different levels of production. I believe that is clear. So this is what we are actually talking about. Okay, so the whole thing, the whole conversation, the whole lot of talk blah 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 I was talking about, these are the things I wanted to what? Actually explain so that you understand. And this helps business people, or most of the time production managers, to make decisions, because when there is a changes in this now, at the changing level with respect to cost, at these levels of production, looking at their rate of change in terms of cost, what can we tell here? At the production level of 1, we're incurring a cost of what? 800. At the production level of 3, we're incurring a cost of what? 400. At the production level of what? 4, we're incurring a cost of what? 200. So you see that as and when our production levels increases, our costs decrease. And this should tell management or production, as you being a production manager, this should tell you something, that there is a relation, or more like an inverse relation, between your output and what? Your cost. As your output increases, your cost what? Decreases. So that's something that you need to understand, and then help you to make better decisions way forward in future. I believe that is clear. So that is with question 1. Let's solve more questions. Let's move on to question 2. So this is question 2. The total cost function in thousands of dollars for manufacturing S manipulator per year is given as, so you have the cost function here, 375 plus 25x minus 0.4 x squared. So it means that we have from 0 to 5, we can operate from 0 to what? 50, sorry, from 0 to 50. That's where we can have our production level being produced. We can operate within, or we can produce our manipulator at the range of 0 to what? 50. I believe that's clear. So now we are told to find the marginal cost of producing the 28th manipulator. This is what I was saying. The marginal cost of producing 28th manipulator, then II, the exact cost of producing what 31st what manipulator. So how do you go by this? Very simple. You know, to find your marginal cost of producing a particular item, we said you first of all differentiate what the find the first derivative of the cost function, and you substitute whatever level of production they want you to actually work on. Because once you differentiate the cost function, the marginal cost you're going to have is going to be just a marginal cost function for what? Just a single what? Output. So whatever you substitute, the idea is that it's a cost of what? A single what? Product or output. I hope that is clear. So let's take note of that. So at this point, have your solution here, and then tell us that here is I. Tell us that here is I. So my cost function was giving us what? 375 plus 25x minus 0.4 x squared. I believe that is clear. So at this point, we are asked to find the marginal cost of what? 28th manipulator. So all I need to do is first of all determine your marginal cost function. So your marginal cost function or cost prime of x is going to be, so when you differentiate 375 is more like constant values, are going to result to 0. So you don't even waste your time to write it. I hope that is clear. And you come and differentiate 25x, you're gonna arrive at what? 25. Is that okay? Minus, and when you differentiate what? 0.4 x squared, what's going to the effect? So 2 multiplying the 0.4 and subtract 1 from the 2, so you're going to arrive at what? 0.8 what? X. So this becomes what? My marginal or cost what? My marginal cost function. Sorry, my marginal cost function. I believe that is clear. So once you're able to get this cost function stands for just what? One item or one output. Is a cost unit for what? One item in terms of what? The change. So always when you see a marginal cost function, is it just the cost of what? Producing what? One item. Once you see a marginal revenue function, it is just the revenue that you derive from selling what? One item of output. Is that okay? So here we are asked to find the marginal cost of producing 28 manipulator. So all that you need to do, just substitute 28 manipulator into the equation and you are good to go. So it's going to be, so our marginal cost or our cost prime of 28 is going to be 25, right, minus 0.8. Whenever you see a, just substitute what? 28 there, and what's going to be the outcome? Remember, we're operating in thousands of dollars. Is that okay? So just pick your calculator and then you'll get to know of the item that we are, you got to know, sorry, the marginal cost involved in this case. So let's see the marginal cost. So with my case, I had the marginal cost of 28 manipulator to be, so here I had here to be 25 and I had here to be 22.4. So when you take the difference, I had here to be $2.6. Right? But remember, we were operating in thousands of what? Dollars. We were operating in thousands of dollars, thousands of dollars. Just multiply by what? 1,000. At the end of the day, you're gonna arrive at what? $2,600 what? Dollars. And you are done. Very simple. When it comes to the exact cost of producing, and we also have to find the exact cost of producing 31st manipulator. So once you heard of the exact cost, meaning that we are using the original cost function given in the question. I believe that is clear. So in that way round two, the idea is that if you are to produce a 31st manipulator, the idea here is that the organization or the business used to produce their normal output they produce for a particular period is what? 30. They produce 30 what? Output of what? Manipulator. And you are being told to find this first manipulator if the need arise. What is going to be the exact cost of what? Producing a 31st what? Manipulator. So in this case, we will define our 31st exact cost of a 31st what manipulator to be exact cost of 31st manipulator to be our cost of x plus what 1, because there's a single product we want to produce, right, together with our normal cost of what production, which is what 30, right? So at any position or level, you'll be asked to find your exact cost. Get to know that before you can produce that cost, we are producing what a number of products. So since we are asked to produce what we are asked to find the exact cost of producing the first manipulator, it means that our normal production that we produce for a particular period is what 30. We produce what 30 manipulator, and we are asked to find the cost of just producing what the 31st what manipulator. So it's going to be C into bracket x plus 1, and then compare it with the original cost of our normal output. Is that okay? So at this juncture, we can say that we know our x to be what 30, right, plus 1. Is that okay? And then compare it to what our x is 30. So then they're gonna have here C 31 compare with C 30. So that's what the 31 you're seeing here. This was the reason why we're having the 31 at the first manipulator here as being represented as for 31 here. So always just compare and then you're good to go. I believe that is clear. So here we're going to sub 31 into the cost function and substitute 30 into the cost. The difference between the two is going to give us what our cost of producing what the first manipulator. So in this regard, we can say that, let me bring it here, 31 compare with cost of 30 is going to be, so here is going to be 375, all right, plus 25 into bracket 31, right, minus 0.4 31 all squared. Is that okay? Minus, remember we are subtracting, so you should be able to put them in bracket and then you are good to go. Then you are good to go. Minus, and it comes here. So here minus 375 plus 25 into bracket 30 minus 0.4 to bracket 30 all squared. Is that okay? So with my case, with my calculator, when I computed for 375 plus 25 multiplying 31 minus 0.4 multiplying 31 all squared, I had my answer to be that's for the first one. For the first 31, I had here to be 765.6, and then for the 30, that's the output of 30, I had to be 765. So in that case, you're gonna arrive at what 0.6 what dollars. But remember, we're operating in thousands, so just multiply by 1,000, so we get to know the real cost of producing what one manipulator. So it's going to be what 600 what dollars, and then you are good to go. So it's very simple. So let's say, assuming that you were told to find what the exact cost of producing what 30th manipulator, that would mean that the business normal output of production is what 29. They produce what 29 output within a normal cycle of the business. Within a normal operating of the business, their output is what 29. So in that case, going to what are you're going to do to find the exact cost of putting 30th for manipulator is going to be 30 cost of 30 compare with what cost of what 29. If we let's say 10, you have to find the exact cost of producing 10, meaning that the business produces what their normal output is what 9, right? So in that regard, it's going to be the cost of what 10 compare with the cost of what 9. If let's say we have to produce what find the exact cost of producing what the 21st manipulator, the idea is that the business will having a normal output of what 20, right? So it's going to be the cost of 21 compared with the cost of what 20. And these are very simple things that you always need to understand. So please get these fundamentals right. It's very, very important. So once you understand this, you can deal with any question in relation to marginal cost and then exact cost of what producing that. It's very, very simple. So always let's take note of that. So that is the idea that you want to understand relationship cost, revenue, and profit, and the marginal analysis in that light. So let's take our last question on the maxima and the minima, and we get it done with this video. All right, so now let's see question 3. A company manufactures and sells kill radio per month. Is that okay? If the monthly cost and price demand equation are given as well, monthly cost given in kill is 4,000 plus 2 kill, and then the price is 10 minus what kill over 1,000. Remember, we can produce within a range of 0 to 1,000. That is a range you can produce as an organization or as a company, right? So we are asked to find I. That's fine for each month. I, the maximum revenue, is what we're talking about. The maximum profit. I, the production level that will realize the maximum profit, and then IV, the price that the company should charge for each radio. I believe that is clear. So this is what you're going to do. So here we are asked to find the maximum revenue. So the maximum revenue is going to be the revenue you're gonna derive, okay, when you're able to produce a particular level of output. So all that you need to know, or all that you need to do here, is to first determine your revenue function. How do you determine your revenue function? Let's see. Remember, we were given the cost that's there, but remember, you're also given what the price per producing the radio, and that was in terms of the function, and that was 10 minus Q over 1,000. Now let's see. So let's have our overall discussion here. So let's say I have here to be I'm asked to find my maximum revenue. Now to find your revenue function, so represent as RQ, because the variable that you are dealing with is Q, so that is going to be output. So RQ. So my revenue function is going to be, since I know the price per radio, and in the question I was told that the quantity of the radio you produce is being represented as Q. All that I need to do is that if I know the price of one, then the total quantity going to produce, which is going to be Q, when you multiply by the price per one, you're going to get the total revenue going to derive at the end of the day. Isn't so? Yes, it's true. So once I know the quantity, the total output we produce to be Q, and I know the price per quantity to be 10 minus Q over 1,000, when I multiply the two, I'm going to get my overall revenue for a particular period. I believe that is clear. So at this point, my revenue function is going to be my price, right, and then multiply by my quantity that I produce, right? So my price function multiplied by my quantity, or my price per quantity multiplied by the total quantity we produce. Is that okay? So now let's see, what was my price function? Was 10 minus Q over 1,000. Is that okay? And then multiply the whole by Q. That's my total quantity I produce. So when I able to sell this quantity with respect to the price per quantity, I'll get my overall revenue. So it's going to be, so let's expand it further. So let's expand it. So it's going to be 10Q minus Q squared over 1,000. So it's a matter of multiplying, expanding. So Q multiplying the 10 and Q multiplying negative Q over 1,000. So this becomes my revenue function, 10Q minus Q squared over 1,000. But then the question is asking us to find the maximum revenue. How do you find maximum revenue? So you're gonna follow the same procedure we used to determine or test for a maximum point. So we want to determine, or want to test for the maximum point at which you can make our maximum revenue. Is that okay? Here we want to determine our maximum point at which we can determine our maximum revenue. So here we want to determine our, so here in production side, we want to determine our maximum production output at which we can obtain maximum revenue. Please get it right. Here we want to determine the maximum quantity can produce at which we can obtain a maximum revenue. So you follow suit with the procedure that we engage in determine a maximum point. So the same thing, just that the one that we had as a presentation on one side of our discussion was on centered on theoretical part, but here is the practical application that we are applying that concept in relation to this. So get it right. So here, the order I need to do is first of all find the first derivative of this revenue function here, which is 10q minus or q squared over 1000. So here is going to be, so first derivative is going to be r prime of what, q, and let's go. So 10q is going to give us what, differential of 10q is going to give me what, 10, and differential of what, q squared over 1000 is going to give me what, q over 500. I hope that is clear. So here, simple. What I'm trying to tell you, we have q squared multiplying what, 1 over 1000. It's the same thing as what, q squared over 1000, right? So when you differentiate what, q squared straight away, is that okay? When differentiate q squared, is going to result to what, 2q over what, 1000, and then 2 goes here, 1 goes here, what, 500. So that's why we're getting q over what, 500. So let's take note of that. Let's take note of that. So once you're able to get your revenue in terms of first derivative, which is 10 minus q, then at this production level that we can't produce anymore. So at this level, when you find your first derivative, is at this level that the organization or the company cannot produce anymore. So if they cannot produce anymore, then at this point, since they cannot work or produce anymore, the idea is that their production level is what, 0. Is that okay? So we can say that at r prime of q is equal to 0, because at that point there is no more production, and therefore production level is what, 0. It will help us to know the quantity they produce. So at r prime, that's revenue function prime, that's first derivative of revenue function, is equal to 0. We can say that 10 minus q over 500 should be equal to what, 0. I hope that is clear. So here is it a matter of what, making q the subject. So I can say that 10 is equal to what, q over what, 500. I just brought a negative q over 500 to join the 0, so it becomes positive q over 500. So here it's just a matter of cross multiplication, 500 multiplying 10, q multiplying 1. So therefore I can say that my quantity of output I can produce at the end of the day is going to what, 10 multiplying what, 500, and it's going to result to what, 5000. So my output for a particular day is going to be what, 5000. So it is this 5000. So this is the maximum what, production level that I can produce to actually obtain what, my maximum what, revenue. Why am I saying it's a maximum what? Let's see if that is true or not. You realize that the question is asking us to find what the maximum what, revenue. So now once you're able to get the quantity you want to produce at the maximum quantity you want to produce to achieve a maximum revenue, let's test for it. If that is true, then we can conclude that we can obtain our maximum what, revenue. So you keep on to, or you continue to find your second derivative, because you want to test whether this revenue function is actually a maximum what, function. Is that okay? So at this point, let's take note. So at this point, I'll find what, my second derivative. So I'll find my r double prime of what, q. All right, and at that point here, I'm going to differentiate this again. Is that okay? So 10, when you differentiate 10, you're going to get 0, so there's no need to write. When you differentiate q over 500, it's going to result to what, negative 1 over what, 500. So you can clearly see that negative 1 over 500 is what, less than 0, isn't it? Yes, it's true. We also established that for us to determine whether a function is what, a maximum what, function, a maximum function, the second derivative of that function should be less than 0. And here you can conclude that our revenue function is what, a maximum what, function. So that's why the question told us to find what, the maximum revenue. So once we are true that this function is what, a maximum what, this revenue function is a maximum what, function, then we can straight away go on to say that at the production level of what, 5000 is the maximum what, production level, we can easily find our maximum revenue. So therefore, to find our maximum revenue, we're going to quote our maximum revenue function again. We're going to what, the original revenue function is going to be 10 q minus what, q squared over what, 1000. So for you to find your maximum revenue, is going to be, all that you need to do just to substitute what 5,000 that we achieve as production level into the original revenue function, and then you get your maximum revenue. So it's going to be 10 into bracket 5,000, is that okay, minus 5,000 all squared, and then divided by what, 1,000, is that okay? So here with the help of calculator you should arrive at, remember in the question we were told that we were operating in what, thousands of what, dollars. We were operating in thousands of dollars. So with my case, I had my revenue maximum revenue I had my maximum revenue to be what, 25,000. I have my maximum revenue to what, 25,000. So let's take note, 25,000 on the dot. So that's my maximum what, revenue. I believe that is clear. So let's take note of that. So once you're able to get your maximum revenue, if you could clearly remember in a question we were told to find the production level that will realize the maximum profit, that will realize what, the maximum what, profit, that will realize the maximum. So you can clearly see that at this production level of 5,000, that's where we can realize our maximum profit, because everything here is what, a maximum what, the revenue is a maximum what, function, is that okay? So let's continue. I think with that you understand what I'm saying better. So how do you then find what, your maximum profit? So to find your maximum profit too, so that's I. To find your maximum profit too, we are saying that you first of all need to find what, or determine your profit function. So to determine your profit function, in this case profit function is going to be our revenue function, right, compare with what, our cost what, function. Isn't so? Yes, that is true. Remember our cost function was given here as what, 4,000 plus what, 2q, and we are also aware of our revenue what, function to be what, 10q minus q squared over 100. So all that you need to just substitute, is that okay? So in that too, if you're asked here, you are told to find our maximum what, profit. So you're going to follow the same thing as we did for the revenue, right? You find the first derivative, and then when you find the first derivative equal to 0, and you solve what, the level of quantity we're able to produce at the end of the day, and then you test for it, and they come and substitute back to the original profit function that you see here as what, revenue compared with cost, and you get your maximum what, profit. That is all. Very simple. So in this case, I know my revenue function was what, 10q minus what, q squared over 1,000, and then compare with my cost function was given as what, 4,000 plus what, 2q. Is that okay? So now let's determine our profit function. So our profit function in this case is going to be, so here is a matter of what, additions and subtraction. Remember this negative sign here affects whatever in the bracket, which is 4,000 plus what, 2q. So by conversion, if I should open the bracket, I can see that the 2q is going to change from positive to what, negative, right? So when I subtract from 10q, it's going to give me what, 8q. Is that okay? And I'll do same. I also have the negative sign also affecting the 4,000, right? So that is fine. But then once I'm done with the first part of the q, let me come back to the second part. So I'm going to have here to what, q squared over 1,000, is that okay, minus what, 4,000. So when I simplify this expression, I'm going to get 8q minus q squared over 1,000 minus what, 4,000. So that's going to be my profit what, function. I believe that is clear. So at this point, we are asked to find what, our maximum profit. So what I need to do, since this function is a maximum maximum profit function, I've got find your quantity involved here, and then you're good to go. So you're gonna find our first derivative of what, our profit function, which is going to give us what, 8, right, minus what, q over 500. Isn't so? Yes, that is true. When you differentiate 4,000, is a constant value, going to get 0, so there's no need for you to write it. So we are saying that at this point production level is what? 0. So at this point production level is 0. So we can say that at P prime of Q is equal to 0, then we can say that 8 minus Q over 500 should be equal to what? 0. Should be equal to 0. I believe that is clear. So therefore here is just a matter of making Q the subject, of the relation. So I can say that 8 should be equal to Q over what? 500. I just brought the negative Q over 500 to join the 0, so it becomes positive. So matter of cross multiplication. So 500 multiplying 8 and Q multiplying 1. So therefore my Q is going to be what? 8 multiplying 500. And therefore I can say that my Q should be equal to what? My Q should be equal to, so 8 5 is going to give me what? 4, so 4,000. So for us to maximize our profit, is at the production level of 4,000. That will help us to maximize our profit. I believe that is clear. So once we know that this function is what? A maximum function. But we said for to be a maximum function, when you take the second derivative, it should be less than what? 0. So if you like, try this derivative that you can see here. So when you differentiate 8, it's constant, going to result 0. When you differentiate negative Q over 500, you're going to get what? Negative 1 over 500. And negative 1 over 500 is less than 0. So there is no need for you to work that one. So at this point, we can say that the production level that will help us to maximize our profit is what? 4,000. So what I need to do, just come and substitute 4,000 that you have derived here back into the profit function, which is what? 8Q minus Q squared over 1,000 minus 4,000, and then you are good to go. So therefore we can say that, let me bring it here. Therefore we can say that our profit function is going to be, we know that Q is what? 4,000, right? So just substitute 4,000 straight away. 8 multiplied by 4,000, is that okay? Minus 4,000 squared, and then divided by 1,000 minus what? 4,000. So here it's just a matter of what? Calculator work, and then you are good to go. I believe you are getting what I'm saying. I believe you are understanding it. So if you understand it right, please make sure to like this video. And subscribe to this channel. Thank you once again. So with my calculator, or with my calculation, when I compute this on my calculator, I had a profit of, let's see, I had a profit of, I'm coming, I had a profit of 12,000. I had a profit of what? $12,000 in that case. So let's take note of that. So you can also check with your calculator and let's see whether that is true. Even if that is not true, but then the principle are right, but I believe the answer is true. So you can also verify with your calculator and let's see. So let's take note of that. Then let's get to the third. I believe that is fine, right? So let's get to the third one. The production level that will realize the maximum profit. So what was the production level that help us to maximize profit? That's why I define it here, that here the 4,000 that we derive here is the production level that will help us to maximize a profit of what? 12,000. So they're asking us to find what? They're asking us to find the production what? Level that will realize the maximum profit. So the production that will realize the maximum profit is what? The 4,000. So just take 4,000 what? Quantities of what? Radio, right? Quantities of what? Of radio. I think we're producing radio, or no, not radio. Yeah, we're producing radio. So 4,000 what? Radio. We're producing radio. So 4,000 radio. Radios. So 4,000 radios, and then you're good. That is all. Then IV, they are saying that price that the company should charge for each radio. price that the company should charge for each radio. So the price that the company will charge for each radio is going to dependent on the production level that they had at the end of the day. So the production level that they had at the end of the day was what? 4,000. At the end of the day, we had our production level to what? 4,000. So all that you need to do is to bring your price function, because remember our price function was given the question as what? 10 minus what? Q squared over 1,000. You can remember that was a price function here. You see, sorry, it was Q rather, not Q squared. It was Q, not Q squared. So Q, so 10 minus Q, 10 minus Q over 1,000. So all that you need to do is to substitute what the production level of 4,000. So it's going to be 10 minus 4,000 over 1,000. Is that okay? So it's going to be what? 10 minus what? 4. I don't know, they're gonna arrive at what? $6. Remember, we're operating in what? Thousands. So just multiply, you're gonna get what? $6,000. So the price that they should charge for each radio, right, should be what? $6,000. Is that okay? Or weren't you operating in, let me check that one. Oh, sorry, we weren't operating any thousands of dollars. Sorry, okay, there wasn't any operation of that, so don't multiply by anything. Sorry, I thought we were operating in thousands of dollars, so let's clear that one off here. Good. So since we operate, meaning that for each rate they're gonna charge was $6 to customers, and this is what we mean by the maxima and then the minima concept in application to business problems. So please try to find time, decode this video presentation very well so that you understand it, because it's gonna help you to deal with a lot of what problems that you may encounter as you being a rising businessman that you have in mind of coming out with your own business, and then these things will pop up and then you need to apply these models to help you to solve these problems. So always, please, if you are asked to find the maximum or the minimum profits, whatever you'll be asked to actually work on, always make sure that you work in line with the principle of the maxima and the minima. If the question is centered on maxima and minima, you apply all the conditions necessary for you to meet the requirements of the question. Is that okay? So sometimes the question might tell you that at what production level will help us to maximize profit, at what production level will help us to maximize revenue. It's the same thing as what? Find the maximum revenue, find the maximum profit, or whatever, whether it's a minimum or maximum. Is that okay? So always, please follow suit to the problem and then work along in that. So guys, so this is where we bring an end to this video. So if this video is really helpful to you, if video was really helpful to you, please go ahead to smash the like button, subscribe, and share with your friends, so that by this way you will get more engagement on the channel. So please don't leave without giving this video a like. Please give this video a like before you leave, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, so that we can get more assistance engagement on this channel. So I'll see you for now. Bye bye.